Welcome to today's episode of our podcast, Empowering Voices, with a special edition for female coaches. I'm excited to introduce our today's guest. My name is Helia Singh. I'm a wealth coach and I'm your host. But our today's guest, her name is Belinda Wood from Perth, Australia. She's a remarkable divorce coach dedicated to supporting female entrepreneurs navigating the complexities of divorce. So she's got over 22 years of experience, business experience. And so that's why she understands the unique challenges that come with balancing a business life while going through a life transition such as divorce. Her journey includes managing a variety of successful ventures. So including a paddock to a boutique butchery, and also even a mining company with a floating share on Australian Stock Exchange. So, but after her own highly conflicted divorce, Belinda recognized the need for a supportive professional during such challenging times. So leading her to become a very person that she wished she had by her side. Today, she empowers women to regain clarity, confidence, and focus. So then they need to, have that to move forward with their lives and even their business. Without further ado, welcome, Belinda.
Thank you, Helia. Thank you for having me on today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm very happy to be here.
Really, thanks so much for your time. Like the other day, we were having a chat, and yes, we couldn't even stop chatting. It's just amazing how much we can, add to the lives of women by just giving them the right direction, especially in this, time of their life, which obviously nobody got married to plan for divorce. But that's the reality. And especially that happens a lot and needed a lot for professional women because they're so busy, and they didn't see the red flags coming, and now navigating all that must be heartbreaking. So is it okay? I'll ask you a few questions.
Yeah, sure.
Then they go through it.
Great. Absolutely.
So your journey from being an entrepreneur to a divorce coach is very inspiring.
Thank you.
Actually, in one of our episodes, I've interviewed another divorce coach from US, but she is more to do with the health, mental health, and the physical health of the person who is going through divorce. But yours is just absolutely unique and so much needed. So I'd like that if you could please share with us that what prompted you to make this transition and how your personal experience is actually navigating your coaching style.
Great question. Thank you, Helia. This is something I love to talk about because I think in any business, you're driven towards your passion and your calling. And for me, working with divorcing women, I feel is my calling. But when I was setting up my business as a divorce coach, I was wondering, do I really want to go down this path for me? Do I want to go down this path working with divorcing women? They're all upset. They're under a lot of stress. That's not really me. What fuels me is business, investments, understanding personal finances, those sorts of things. I love that. And I was really torn because I knew I wanted to become a coach. And I was thinking, do I really want to work with women going through a divorce and go down that nasty rabbit hole? Or do I want to just do what I love, and that's business? And that's when I realized I was actually working with my first client, actually. She knew I was looking at becoming a divorce coach. And she said to me, she came in, she said to me, look, I need to leave my husband. She explained the situation. It was dreadful. He was controlling, coercive control, those sorts of things. And she said, but I can't. And I said, why can't you? She said, I can't afford to. And I knew this woman had been running her own business for 20 years. And I thought, why can't you afford to? And so I sat down with her, we unpacked it. And I veered towards her business rather than talking about why would you, why are you looking at getting divorced and unraveling that. I was immediately drawn to, well, what is going on in your business that you can't afford to get divorced? And we unpacked that and immediately identified two things that she could implement straight away. And it literally would have doubled her income. It wasn't a huge income that she was on, but it would have doubled her income overnight if she'd implemented it. And that's when the penny dropped for me that I can help women exactly like her get through their divorce, and they need their business because, obviously they'll need it to fund them, but also at some point in time, they started that business through a passion, an interest, an area of expertise. They started a business because they were passionate about something. So when I work with divorcing women, they're definitely they're sad, they're depressed, they're down, they're under a lot of stress, they're overworked, they're overwhelmed. They've got a lot going on. And if I can just reignite a little bit of that passion that they had when they started their business, then that helps to lift them up and move them forward. So that's really the main reason I combine the two.
That's great. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
this. I just wanted to actually put this disclaimer out there
Sure.
to our audience that we are not advocating for divorce. Okay, so that's people's business. That's what they want to do, and at the same time, we are not lawyers. Okay, we are just here to help people to navigate through that transition. And that brings me to my next question. That okay, that's great. You can help female entrepreneur to get their business to the next level or have a successful business going through divorce. But how about the actual divorce itself? So
Great question.
when we had a chat, obviously we were talking about that, okay, people, the first thing they do, they go to lawyer. And can they
Fantastic
be
question.
How could you help them in that area?
So this is my number one issue. Well, not my number one issue. This is, I guess, the number one issue that people face, especially women, when they're faced with divorce, or they're contemplating divorce, or they suddenly think, or maybe their husband's come to them and said that he wants a divorce. There is a lot of confusion. There's a lot of, oh my God, what do I do? The first thing they'll do is either Google it or talk to somebody. And what immediately comes up is divorce lawyer. And the reason that people spend so much money on their divorce is they go straight to a divorce lawyer at the very first step. And they spend a lot of time doing all the pre-work with a lawyer, which is the most ineffective way to use their time and the lawyer's time, and hence their money. And so what a divorce coach does that a lawyer doesn't do is start them at the very beginning, work through the options with them, and work through what it is that they would like out of their divorce. And as you rightly mentioned, I don't advocate for divorce at all. But if it gets to that point, we need to do it right, we need to do it well, and we need to do it so that both parties feel like they've had a win, whether it's high conflict or whether it's amicable. And so going straight to a lawyer is actually the worst thing you can do, because you're not prepared. And I am a prime example of somebody who did that. I went straight to a lawyer. This is nearly 10 years ago. And first of all, they want a retainer, which is fair enough. And it's a lot of money. And I sat down and I just said, oh, what do I do? I'm just sitting there going, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. That is a really expensive question to be asking a lawyer because you're sitting there, they're giving you options, and they're not actually working with you to create your life going forward. And that's what, and nor should they, because their expertise is legal. And you want them specifically working on the legalities of your divorce. But in order for them to do that and to do it really well, they need for you to know what you want. And that's where, you know, working with somebody like me, I sort of liken myself to a project manager of your divorce. So we start at the beginning and we work through, okay, well, how do we unravel this and what do you want and what do you believe you're capable of, you know, moving forward? And if you don't believe you're capable of this and that, why not? And what else could you do? And how does your life look? Those sorts of things. If you're sitting down with a lawyer discussing that, that is incredibly expensive and highly ineffective because that's not what they're trained to do. And what happens is clients speak to lawyers about these things. It's not the lawyer's area of expertise, and they very soon run out of money. And at some point in time, they're not going to be able to pay the lawyer at the pointy end of the divorce, which is where they desperately need the lawyer to be doing their best work. By this stage, most people have run out of money. So they go, oh, can't afford it. You know, sorry, not paying you anymore. And the lawyer has spent all this time working on issues that the client should have already worked through with somebody else. And it's very difficult to work it through on your own. I mean, as a coach, I also have a coach. So I work on my own business with a coach. I'm sure you're the same, but I work on my own business with a coach. And so that helps me move forward. If I'm doing it by myself, I'm not understanding enough about what I'm doing, if that makes sense. Yeah, and that's exactly the same in divorce. So a lot of one of the other big mistakes people make is talk to their friends and family and colleagues. What do I do? What do I do? And that can be utterly detrimental. Even though your friends, family, and colleagues have your best interests at heart, they may have had personal experience, they may have heard of someone with experience, and they're giving you information based on someone else's experience, and it's highly irrelevant to you, usually, and could be detrimental. I look at my own case. I was given a piece of advice by a family member, absolutely well-meaning, made sense on paper. Had I done that, I think I would have at least halved my net worth, halved, and probably everything, you know, had a lot of other bad effects. But they didn't know that, and I didn't probably know enough not to act on it. Fortunately, I just had an inkling. I didn't act on it, but had I not been aware and acted on it, it would have been a big problem.
Amazing. That's spot on. Because as you know, as a wealth coach, obviously I get a lot of referral from divorce lawyers. So people who are already going through divorce or they just signed up their paperwork. And these people, they are just trying to get back on their feet with their finances or creating wealth, because obviously through divorce, they've lost at least half of their assets. And with the assets, obviously, they lose confidence, hope, and many other things. And now they need to rebuild their life. And this is how they get referred to me. One thing that is very common I've noticed is, okay, and that was a key word you mentioned, it's about win-win.
Yeah.
And being fair to the other party. It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter what the other person is done. Those other personal things we'll put it aside. But at the end of the day, we are human. We need to be fair, and especially once the kids are involved. Because at the end of the day, it is for the children. So to drag them to this nasty game and, just make them going through that definitely is not human to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've noticed, actually, like in the last 2-3 months in Perth, a couple of the people in Perth, actually, that happened. These ladies, they've been through divorce. And because from beginning, like you mentioned, they went to a divorce lawyer and they've just been, played around, go do this, go do that. And they couldn't actually navigate that. By the time they wanted to sign the binding financial agreement, they were just so exhausted that I just don't care. I just want to get out of my way.
Yes.
And that was the biggest mistake they've done.
Big mistake.
Because we know now how the market is in terms of real estate, in terms of how even finding a rental, it's a challenge. Forget about buying it.
Yep.
and they let their their ex to stay in the home, taking everything, and they're just getting a small money just because they're exhausted mentally and frustrated. They just sign it and come out. But while if they would have talked to someone like you, divorce coach and a project manager on their divorce, help navigate that. So by the time they'll go and see lawyers, they already know what they want, and it will be a very, especially for businesswomen, it will be something like a business transaction rather than frustrating experience.
Yep.
It's amazing.
And they can't, when they have been working on what's going on in their future, they can't be railroaded by anybody. And I've found this with at least a couple of my clients recently, is that they've come to me, first call, they're in tears for about 5 to 10 minutes. They can hardly speak. You can hear them shaking. They're crying. Everything is just on top of them. Within a couple of sessions, you can hear the change in their voice and how they feel. And I don't like necessarily using this word, but it epitomizes how they are. They're empowered. They're suddenly, hang on a moment, stop right there. I have got huge potential in whatever I want to do. But not only that, if they've been a stay-at-home mum or put their career on hold, they're now realizing the value of that role in the marriage. And I did have a client who said, look, I don't want to take his money. It's actually a combined effort. What did you do while he was earning that money? Well, I looked after the kids and those sorts of things. And this particular client was very quite mousy in terms of, I just, exactly like you're saying, and it's not a particularly high conflict separation, but she has put herself at this level rather than taking control. Now she's gone, hang on a moment, yes, I did contribute and that is worth something, but also she's gone, and I have all these skills that I can use, and I used to love doing this, and I had a little side business, and I can actually reinvigorate that and those sorts of things. And it's when they get to that point where they go, hang on, I don't actually have to put up with that, and I don't have to walk away. But as you say, they're exhausted, and the reason they're exhausted, they are dealing with something they don't understand how to deal with. They're lacking the knowledge, and that's where I come in to help them work out what exactly it is they want to do. Another very common issue I find is that when women say, well, I want to keep the family home, and it's usually a big family home, quite expensive, and that's fine. And I'll say to them, well, that's okay. Let's unravel why. And I reckon in 95% of cases, it's because she doesn't want the husband to keep it. And so that in itself is utterly crazy if you just wrote that down in a line and said, I want the house because I don't want my husband to have it. Well, that's no reason to keep the house, but you need to dig down deep into these things and work out, well, why is that the most important thing for you?
Absolutely. That's great. At the same time, now that just came to my mind that, look, I'm sure there are so many people who are watching this episode or this interview. They'll be thinking, okay, it's all great. Obviously, they're going to reach out to you and the divorce coach. But okay, is there any checklist that you could, guide our audience to have when they want to come and talk to you? So even that will be a fruitful interview or meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
Wasting the time and talking about here and there and what he did or what she did. So.
Absolutely. Look, sometimes, Helia, people do need to talk about, what he did, what she did, to get it out into the, into the system. It's also helpful to me, even though I'm not a counsellor and that's not my area of expertise or interest, it's helpful to me to understand what level they're at the moment.
Mhm.
So what I do with my clients is they book in with me for a 30-minute discovery call, and that's always free. But in order to book in for that, they need to fill out a questionnaire so that I can understand exactly what's important to them and what they've been going through, what their situation is. And from there, sometimes people don't fill it in and they're not serious. I don't want to work with people who can't fill in a form, because when I work with my clients, they get results. And in order for them to get results, unfortunately, they do need to put in some work, but that is in their best interests, right? So if they can't fill in a questionnaire when we start, there's no, I won't say there's no hope for them, but there's they're not going to take action, because I give them tasks after each call. It's like, okay, well, let's work out this. And I couldn't possibly tell you what those tasks are because they're different for everybody. And they may relate to, dealing with their ex. They might relate to dealing with something with their mindset, or it might relate to something completely irrelevant to the divorce on paper, but might be for their business or something like that. So we do that. And yeah, I deal only with action takers. I'm not a taskmaster, but because it's not my divorce, it's theirs. And I want the best for them. And that's why I get a great deal of success with my clients, is because I do ride them, but they have to do the work.
Absolutely. On a side note to our audience, if you want to do this and contact Belinda, so make sure you have all the information, at least the financial one, ready. Okay, so to know about what's the value of your home, what are the other assets, superannuation, term deposit, shares, jewelry, antique, anything. Where, just always keep an eye to have a proper asset and liabilities section for yourself to understand what you have, because that's very important moving forward with a divorce. A lot of divorces, actually, it went to the end, but then it had to be turned around because one of the party wasn't disclosing all the information, and that can delay this way longer. So this is the onus is on you to find out the details. Having said that, as a wealth coach, obviously we look at this stuff to see that if there is some, financial embezzlement, unfortunately, some partner, they take the money out and put it, take it overseas or do other things, which we can find out. And actually, that is why I wrote a mini book, which is available free on our website. That's called How to Recognize Financial Abuse in a Relationship. Because a lot of time that financial issues, and then later on after divorce, the person find out, oh my God, that money went somewhere, but look, that's too late. The divorce is gone. So yes, please make sure you've got the list ready, and this is your divorce. You need to be prepared if you want to get the best outcome. Anything on that one, Belinda?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there, Helia. And that's something that everybody, regardless of how much you think that you have in your asset pool, everybody needs to do. The good news is that you don't need to be on top of it when you come to somebody like me, because we do talk about that. And I often find that even 2 or 3 phone calls in, something new pops up. And I think you've never mentioned that before. And it's the more we talk, the more it comes out. And it's at that point that I would send a client to a wealth coach like you, Helia, because they've got all sorts of questions. What could he possibly have done with this? And how am I going to live? And those sorts of things. Even with business owners, and business owners can be the worst offenders, they don't actually know where the money's going, even in their own business. So, and sometimes I'll say to them, often you find, I'm just jumping around here, but often you'll find entrepreneurs are married to other entrepreneurs. And so he's got a business, she's got a business. Usually hers is what she considers to be a little side hustle that could actually be a proper business. But then she'll say something like, oh no, his business isn't worth anything because he told me it was worth nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'll say you'll still need to get that business valued, because you'll probably find that it is worth something and it has a value on it. And so that's where somebody like you, Helia, as a wealth coach is imperative as part of the divorce team, because that is a huge part of divorce. And getting those things in order again before you go to your lawyer is absolutely crucial, because it sets the scene for your future. You need to know what you have available to you to make work.
Absolutely. Thanks for stressing on that, especially that business valuation. It's a big thing.
Absolutely.
I often see, because I help people when they're buying a business, that some people, when they are selling a business, they'll go to an accountant and say, okay, I want to sell my business in 2 years, 3 years time. What can I do? Obviously, legally, of course, to make the numbers looks good.
Yeah.
And this is how they do it. And it looks good to a person who just sees it and say, oh, well, great, this much revenue, blah, blah. But we look at it and say, no, the value of this business is at least, it should be, be half or less than half. The same way that happens for people who are going through a divorce. They get the business valuation, or they talk to their accountant and say, okay, what can I show here to show the value of my business less, because in 2 years' time, I'm going through a divorce. And that is very, very important.
That's exactly right, Helia. And just on that business valuation, often I have clients, they've really got no idea what the business is worth. And that's where I would get them to speak with a wealth coach first, because we start talking about a possible asset pool. And I obviously can't discuss with them, splits and things like that. But there's a big difference between a business that might be worth $10,000 versus a business that is actually worth $1 million, for example. And the client needs to be clear on that, because it does completely change what they do going forward. So early on in the piece, they do need to speak with a wealth coach.
Thank you. Appreciate that. One last question. So looking back on your own experience, so what are some of the key lessons you learned that you wish you had known when you went through that? And how do you incorporate those insights into your coaching?
The biggest thing I wish I had known is that divorce coaches exist. That was my biggest mistake, going straight to the lawyer and sitting there going, what do I do? At the same time, I was running a business I had, which needed me in the business 7 days a week, and I wasn't. But also at the same time, I had young children. So the things that the lawyers asked me to do, because they were all haphazard and I was creating a story in my own head, I didn't quite understand where I was going with everything. I knew what I was hoping to achieve, but I was going at it like a bull in a china shop, and I had no proper plan, and I had no real understanding of any of the ramifications of what I was doing. And I really burnt myself out and ended up ignoring what I needed to do with my divorce. But because I was so drained with everything, I was also ignoring my business. So as cliched as it might sound, what I would do now would be start with a divorce coach, because I was asking all the wrong people, all the wrong advice, and turning up to my lawyer's office completely unprepared and using my lawyer as I should have been using a divorce coach. Everything that went wrong in my divorce stemmed from that one big mistake.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your journey. It's your insight to this. I'm actually very surprised that, I have to be honest to you and to all my audience. Until I met you, I didn't know there is such a thing as divorce coach. And I'm a coach. So that shows that how much this very important profession has been overlooked to me, divorce coach is like a glue in there. You need it before going to actual lawyers, before you run out of budget, before you lose your sanity, before you lose your hope, or going through all those frustration and then just sign up whatever they put in front of you just because you just want to get it over done with. That's your basically way to do it.
Absolutely.
So your dedication to helping women, Belinda, to navigate this complexity of their divorce while maintaining their business and their spirit is truly amazing. Thank you so much for all your time and all your wisdom. Really appreciate it. And for our listeners who want to learn more about Belinda, please have a look at the caption so you can see all her social handles as well as her website. And I know that you've got this divorce entrepreneur movement, which is, wow, that is so empowering even to listen to that. And you remember, you don't have to face these challenges by yourself. You have a very experienced divorce coach on by your side. And again, thank you so much, Belinda, for being with us and sharing your wisdom with everyone and empowering women to find the best life or live their best lives after divorce. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Helia. I've really learned a lot from you as well and have really appreciated being on this podcast. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.